All right, let's dive into one of the weirdest comeback stories you'll ever hear in the digital world. We're talking about crypto projects that were completely left for dead and are now somehow clawing their way back from the grave. It all starts like this. It's not some big explosion. It's more like a quiet murmur, a whisper about these old tokens and projects that, let's be honest, everyone just wrote off years and years ago. It's a whisper coming from a really specific, kind of chaotic moment in crypto history. So let's just rewind the clock for a second. Think back to 2017. That was the golden age of the ICO, right? The initial coin offering. I mean, thousands of projects were launching, and every single one promised to change the world. But then, well, then the crash happened. And over the next few years, almost all of them just, poof, vanished. And so, just like that, tons of people who had bought in were suddenly stuck holding what felt like, well, digital dust. These tokens were basically fossils, right? Buried on some forgotten blockchain. Just a little reminder of a crazy hype cycle that was long gone. Okay, so that brings us to the real mystery here. Why now? Why on earth are these tokens, with zero teams, no updates, no roadmaps to speak of, suddenly surging out of the ashes? That is exactly what we're going to unpack. Now, this whole phenomenon has picked up a perfectly spooky name, the zombie coin revival. And honestly, it fits, because what we're learning is that in the world of crypto, some things might be dead, but they're never really truly buried. So what exactly is a zombie coin? Well, picture this. It's a token from back in that 2017 boom. It's been completely abandoned by its creators. But now it's seeing this just shocking explosion in value. And for reasons that have absolutely nothing to do with the usual stuff, like fundamentals. And look, just to be crystal clear, we are not talking about small gains here. We are talking about jumps of over 1,000%. I mean, that's the kind of number that makes absolutely everyone, even the biggest skeptics out there, stop and go, wait, what on earth is going on? So to really wrap our heads around this, we actually have to look past the tech for a minute and zoom in on, well, us, on pure human psychology. Because the value here, it's all being driven by nostalgia, by hype, and just the raw power of a really good story. Okay, so you've basically got two very different groups of people powering this whole revival. On one side, you've got the vets, right? The early investors. For them, it's pure nostalgia for that chaotic, Wild West era of crypto, the excitement, the hope. But then on the other side, you've got the new investors, and they're looking at these dirt cheap tokens and seeing something else entirely, a lottery ticket. And honestly, this is just a perfect example of a core truth in any speculative market. When emotion takes the driver's seat, all the normal stuff, utility, dev teams, it all becomes secondary. Sometimes the story is all you need. That narrative of a forgotten relic making an impossible comeback, that's powerful stuff. And you know what's wild? This hype builds out according to a pretty predictable playbook. It almost always starts with a whisper, usually from some influencer on social media just asking, hey, you guys remember this coin? And that's all it takes. That one question awakens the old, sleeping community. Suddenly, Telegram groups with like 4 people in them explode to thousands. And that's when the real hype cycle kicks in. Old holders are digging up their long-lost keys, new buyers are jumping in, and the whole thing is fueled by that comeback story. But here's the thing. This story isn't just about feelings and hype. Not at all. None of this would even be possible without the very unique way the underlying technology works. So yeah, let's get into the technical foundation that actually lets these zombies get back on their feet. I heard this metaphor that just nails it perfectly. It's like discovering an abandoned building, but the electricity is still working. The original creators, they packed up and left a long time ago, but they forgot to turn the lights off. That core infrastructure they built is still there, just humming away, waiting for someone to come back inside. So why is the power still on? Well, there are a few really key reasons. First, the tokens themselves are permanently etched onto the blockchain ledger. They can't be erased. Second, the original smart contracts, that's the code that runs the whole show, they're immutable. They can't be changed, and they still work. Third, you might have old liquidity pools still kicking around, which means you can actually trade them. And finally, a lot of the big exchanges just never got around to delisting them. So what this all really means is that the foundation, it's still there. It's rock solid. It's permanent. All it's waiting for is that one little spark of new interest to come along, plug back into this tech that's been waiting the whole time, and bring the whole thing roaring back to life. And sometimes that spark does more than just cause a temporary price pump. Sometimes it ignites something way, way bigger. It can lead to the ultimate revival, a complete full-blown project takeover. What we're seeing here is a real changing of the guard. The original founders, they're ghosts. They're long gone. But stepping into that vacuum are new developers, talented outsiders who see a huge opportunity. They look at the abandoned infrastructure, they see this newly re-energized community, and they get to work. Their goal is basically to fork the code, which is just a fancy way of saying they create a new path forward from the old software, they update the whole vision, and they rebuild something totally new out of the ashes. And this is where things get really incredible. You have a digital fossil from 2017, something everyone wrote off, that gets totally remolded and reborn into a legitimate modern success story. It's an amazing transformation. When you really take a step back and look at it, this whole zombie coin thing, it's not just some weird little market quirk. It actually tells us something really profound about the soul of crypto itself. First off, it just screams that in this world, collective belief is one of the most powerful forces there is. I mean, if enough people simply believe something has value, then it does. It doesn't even matter what its original purpose was. It also speaks to this incredible ethos of resilience and second chances. It tells us that in this space, failure isn't necessarily a permanent state. Good ideas, or maybe just really, really persistent ones, can always find a way to claw their way back. And finally, it just highlights how cyclical everything is here, how ideas that were totally dismissed or forgotten can suddenly, out of nowhere, become the absolute center of attention, capturing the imagination of a whole new generation of people. So it really leaves you with this one big question, doesn't it? In a world that's built on unchangeable code and pure collective belief, is any project really dead? Or is everything just waiting for the right moment to wake up?